Man, there's so much detail stuff happening. Oh man, he looks great too. What is... Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Motion Designer Reacts. I'm Ryan with Chomp Studio, and I was sent a new trailer to look at with the notes of Unreal Engine and cool environments. So as always, let's check out this new cinematic trailer. I'll try not to talk too much over it, and then in the second half, let's take a look at some things that I like and that really stand out from the trailer. So let's keep the intro short as usual, and let's check out the cinematic trailer for AstroPulse Reincarnation. Well, there's the Unreal Engine logo, first thing. Imagendary Studios. Nice logo reveal.
It's only human to hope. I hoped for a world of love and peace.
That bug looks great.
But as darkness silently crawled around, that world was gone without a whisper.
Yeah, I mean, the environment is awesome. Getting a little bit of a Game of Thrones vibe right here, which is pretty cool. All right. Nice green area in the cold snow somehow.
Hope.
Oh, looks like a rib cage. That's
a trap. It shackles you, weakens you.
nice. Great shots. Love this environment too. Oh. Oh.
What is hope if not the willingness to sacrifice everything?
Oh wow. Man, there's so much detail stuff happening. Oh man, he looks great too. What is... Okay. Oh man. There's a lot of, I feel like a lot of Matrix references with this. Oh man, this DNA strand looks amazing. Forming like an additional strand on it. That is so cool. That was a great sequence. Oh, wow.
Your past is a prison.
Wow, that foliage looks great.
Memories betray you. And yet your destiny remains unwritten. I choose you, for you are home.
Man, all these different environments. Man, I'm feeling like there's a lot of influences of a lot of different trailers and games from this.
Rise, be my wrath, my revenge.
That open heart is sweet. That looks good. Yeah, see, that feels like Diablo right there. Oh, nice transition too. Man, this is great. Yeah, see, that kind of feels like Diablo as well. Denarius a little bit.
The time for reckoning is now.
AstroPulse. All right, so I don't really know too much about this game, but man, the trailer looks great. A lot of nice little scenics, a lot of great camera moves, and I feel like there's a lot of inspiration from a lot of other games that are embedded in this. Let's go back through and take a look at a couple of shots that I really like, but overall, another great cinematic trailer. 10 seconds here, I love the Imagendary Studios logo going to that snow particle effect as we transition into the snow scene. Totally classic, really good look. And throughout this trailer, I like all the different environments that we get a feeling of, and I love Unreal Engine created environments. They just feel so organic and real. And the blue tones, the snow, the atmosphere, the clouds, everything in this looks great. And I love this opening shot and just the amount of detail of what we're getting here. It feels like, you know, we're flying through this trench, and I get a little bit of also that feel of the opening tiles of Game of Thrones with this. And I just really like the detail and how this looks. I'm sure they had to tighten up this intro shot a little bit, but the fade to almost gray kind of cross dissolve from one end of the trench going into another, I felt like that was maybe a little bit of a weird transition, and I don't know if it was that necessary. Maybe we could have just sped that up a little bit, but the big reveal of how we're in this big snow environment with the contrast of the fertile green, almost summer environment, I love how those smoothly transition to each other. It looks really great. Then obviously the particle effects in the middle here are a really nice touch to, you know, we get a sense that there's something important here happening. There's this big energy streak. Love how that looks as well. So we go from the nice bright blues and lush greens to almost this monochromatic gray environment. And the first thing that kind of caught my attention to this, you know, some people are familiar with this game called Scorn, and it just gives me a lot of those vibes. And that inspiration was some of the architecture of these characters. The opening particle effects of all of the, I'm guessing they're flies or the insects flying out of the chest. I love that contrast of gold on the blue. Really nice to see that color contrast and really makes that section stand out. The scene where we get front on and we're sort of dollying in while the container is opening up with all these bugs flying around and the arms opening up, and there's just so much detail and so much happening that the complexity of this scene is really striking and really makes it stand out. The look of this guy with his sort of dead white eyes and just his wet skin and texturing really gives an kind of an uncanny, creepy, slimy vibe. I think that's the goal of what they're trying to do, is they're trying to make it feel uncomfortable with this, and I think they did a great job with that. He looks slimy and weird and scary and gross. And then another inspirational element I feel like is in here is the sort of the pod section of the Matrix, or also, you know, he kind of looks like in the similar sort of pod. He's kind of being brought out of hibernation and being jacked in, and then that flying through, you know, in the Matrix we go through the mouth, but we kind of fly through his eye to see this transformation happening, which leads into our next DNA strand sequence, which I really like. But really good influence and vibes from that, I feel like, from the Matrix, and it's a great interpretation of what they did with that for their game. This next interior DNA strand section, I really love the medical, looking through a microscope, depth of field and perspective from this ultra shallow depth of field, little details on DNA strand as we see this other foreign DNA strand built on top of the current one. Really love this section. There's also a good color shift during this too, where we're inside the guy and he's kind of in his normal blue sort of cellular structure, and then the whole environment turns red, symbolizing kind of evil and things are changing. I like that color shift and that lighting shift that they did in this to really accentuate the changes happening. And just overall also great particle work on this DNA strand. The next section where he's forming and transforming and sort of almost melting, kind of like liquid forming into this new body, you know, almost like steel being forged where it's sort of liquidy and molten. Really cool sequence. I think they did a great job. I wish I would have liked to see more little noise or bump patterns or details happening inside of this transition, because it feels almost a little too smooth or almost like blurry, or just kind of splotchy. It would have been nice to see a little bit more detail in this, but it's still really effective and really good looking. Just a quick note, when we're looking at this little beetle that's in this ice structure or wherever it's captured in, I love the surrounded foliage. It really gives it high detail. We have nice little rocks. And one thing that really makes a good grass environment, I feel like, is different kinds of foliage. We have a little bit of these purple flowers, a little bit of like dandelions, a little bit of weeds, a little bit of grass, a little bit of different shades of rock. And those little details is just making this all come together and feel more realistic. It's very colorful, and I really love the palette that they did with this. And there's a cool looking shot and great 3D. So I'm not normally critical with a lot of trailers because, I mean, this is all very high-end work. It's all really well done. I mean, I feel like I couldn't do it. But the second half of this trailer feels almost like a secondary bit or maybe a little bit of an afterthought, because all of our interior scenes with him being created, getting lifted out of the machine, we have these nice cinematic blue tones, dramatic lighting. But then we start going to some of the exterior shots of the city and stuff, and it doesn't feel as dramatic or as high rendered. The shots of the little girl in the grass field, I mentioned that earlier. I love that shot because, again, variety of grass and foliage and dandelions and flower, different types of flowers, trees, rolling hills. A lot of detail in this scene. Even what she's holding looks really good. And I like the nice, harsh, sort of sunset lighting behind her. 1 point directional lighting looks really good. They were contrasting back to the blue. That stuff looks good. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I know you want to show some of the gameplay, but these parts where we get into the city, they don't feel as dramatically lit. It kind of feels a little bit like Resident Evil in a lot of ways with our big character. Still really well done, but I'd like to see a little bit more dramatic tones in that perhaps. So let me pause on the city here really quick. I think maybe what it is we have these super high detailed scenes and characters, and then I don't know if maybe this is part of like in-engine game elements, but this part just didn't feel as much as highly detailed or rendered. It felt more like a game engine, and I know this is advertising a game. I think even just maybe not this high lighting, overhead, high noon time of day lighting, I think would have made it look a little bit more dramatic. And maybe that's why they're cutting around a lot as well. And then we have the big guy, get a lot of Resident Evil vibes here. He looks great. His detailed in his arbor and everything, really cool. I like how that looks. And then a couple quick flashes, quick cuts, and we get back into the interior scene. And then this exterior scene with her, exposed heart, again, these blue and red contrasting tones, which just looks so good. And we get back into dramatic lighting, dramatic clouds. Everything is high contrast, looks really good. And it's just such a stark difference from that city scene to this. Again, it all looks fine, it looks great. It just feels a little like they don't match, like they were done differently, or different people did them, or different, sort of techniques were used. But this exterior scene with her and her hair, how it kind of gives that underwater feel to it, it looks really cool. And I really like that part as well. And all these shots with the exposed hearts are so cool. So many valves inside the heart. One call out I wanted to do is that there is this section towards the end where she has her hands extended with these giant red wings. Huge Diablo vibes from Edith when we were watching her, as well as Edith, when she's coming out, there's this transition where it's the blue room and it transitions to more her red tones. They do a similar sort of transition through the floor here that the people are going through. Very Diablo inspired, maybe a little too much, I don't know. But that definitely made me think exactly of that other trailer that we reviewed before. And then we get a nice little close-up of her also at the end, where we see a little bit more of those crystallized structures coming out, scars on the face, more of that wavy hair look. Still really well done. It looks cinematic, and I love the lighting and the color tones. This ultra wide shot of the city scene, again, I'd like to see a little bit more dramatic lighting with this. I think they're doing a good job of sort of breaking up the patches of the city, like there's sunlight coming behind clouds. So we got a little bit of those cloud splotches. The detail is absolutely incredible. I really like the foreground destruction detail a little bit more than the city behind it, but still really cool. I love how both sides of the highways are just completely caked with cars that aren't able to go anywhere. Little pits of fire, lots of smoke. Love that scene. And then we end it on our character who is transforming into basically this sort of Anarius looking character. But I'm definitely a sucker for a nice close shot in between the eyes. We have this nice glow that his eyes are, lighting the darkness between his eye sockets. And I'm always a sucker for depth of field, a little bit of particles. We got a little bit of halation happening around the scene. On the outsides, mainly obviously, halation is always in the hot points, and we get a nice little glow off of our character from that. And this is a great scene to end on, and I love how it looks. So there we go, guys. What do you think of AstroPulse? Love the cinematic trailer. Obviously, like with all things, you know, love to see a little bit of tweaks here and there. Really good cinematic, and thank you for sending that over to me so I could check it out. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one.